Water, anybody?
One, thank you.
Which I think, so when she sent me her calendar.
Then you can say.
So I just,
Then you can
emailed her
say
back
who's
to
in
veteran
for that.
office. Okay. Oh no, what happened?
I don't think we're going to be here then.
Okay, well, thank goodness.
For myself. I said at mom's not giving me any sympathy.
Of course
They would
not.
always chime in and I think they'll find anything.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll have Andrew move it to 2. Okay. Okay.
I give you permission to do that.
And it's still at 1 and I can't change it, you know, because it was an invite or whatever, so, yeah. Okay. Yes. Perfect.
I'll let you know. Yeah. 7:30.
Busy day.
He probably does that on purpose.
Exactly. Get it all over with.
Get it over
Eat the frog. But they say you're supposed to eat the frog early.
with. Spread out.
Oh.
I was hoping, welcome back. Was it, were you gone last week?
October.
5:30.
You got your friend right.
That's cold out.
It is cold, isn't it, at cafe down in Phillips?
Last time I'm Is that the new one? Yep. Or how have you been?
Good.
Good. All day
Cafe.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Are you ready? Calling meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our meeting tonight is on Tuesday due to the Veterans Holiday, and I'd like to take this opportunity to thank all the veterans who work in our school district and as well as live in our community who have served us. Moving on to the approval of minutes of the meetings held October 28th and November 6th of 2019. Do I have a motion?
So
Move second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Any persons wishing to address the board? Thank you. Moving on to approval of the agenda.
So moved. Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same side. Motion carries. Good news report.
Good evening. It's getting cold outside, and therefore perhaps a good book is in order. And whether you prefer fiction or nonfiction, there's really nothing quite like the excitement created by a great book with great suspense. There was plenty of great suspense at John Harris last Thursday when staff introduced a new tool to instill a love for reading in their students. And Principal Kirsten Daberpool and her librarian Stephanie Heggie are here to tell us more about this exciting vending machine that has come to their school. So I'll invite them up. You'll see some pictures on the screen, and then at the end, we'll cap all of it off with an exciting video.
Good evening. Thanks for having us. When Deanne asked us if we would come and just speak to you guys about this wonderful gift that was given to us, not given, we used our funds, but we'll take you through our process. So this summer, one of my teachers emailed me a book vending machine. And I was like, just instantly fell in love, and I thought, we need this at John Harris. And so we started to research. It was a little pricey, so we kind of stepped away from it and stepped back. And then through that process, we decided through donations and magazine subscriptions that we have received over the past few years that we would purchase this machine. And through all of this, it's been a really strong community building within our school. And it's just been great to see the kids' anticipation as we revealed this huge project. So I'm gonna let Steph talk about all the steps and everything we did as we showed the kids what.
Sure. So it's been a really exciting process, I think, for our building to experience. And the first thing that we wanted to do is to be very systematic with our rollout. So we started by kind of teasing our staff a little bit at a meeting, and we had a STEM activity where they had to save Inchi, which was a gummy worm, and without hands, put him in a life jacket, which was a mint. And with that, then we served dirt cups, and then we introduced the idea of this fabulous bookworm that we were going to get up and rolling. And so that staff engagement kind of started the buzz around our building and really got people talking. And after that, we put together a video clip, which one of our EAs is a fabulous theater major. And so we enlisted her personality, and she worked with some of our students and took some pictures of them being excited. And then we ran that in the lunchroom for the kids with some key phrases and the original logo for our bookworm. And then they began to really start asking questions up and down the hallways and in the library and with all the teachers. So it was fun just to watch the anticipation of everything kind of coming together. Following that, we enlisted the help of a landscaper who brought in his big dump truck, and we mocked this delivery video and tricked the kids and had men in hard hats carrying this really heavy, empty box down the hallways, and we put together this video clip that was our final clue. And while that was going on, we, Rebecca, one of our 5th grade teachers, who was kind of original thought this was and who shared it, she put together a bunch of clues around the building, kind of based on what the game rooms use. And kids were up and down the hallways trying to solve all these clues, and some of the answers would be really good behavior will earn you a gold coin. So we just kind of continued to promote that. And on the final day, we ran the last video clip, and their favorite part was watching Mrs. Dauberpool fly down the hallway on a cart. Oh, good. Good, we have evidence of that. So overall, it was just a really great experience. The kids are still buzzing about it. They're earning these coins, I think, most importantly, from their behaviors. And so we are rewarding those students for their positive behaviors with something positive, like a book. And we did receive a grant to help us get going with the books, as well as our support from our PTA and the Scholastic Book Fair. So we'll continue the journey and kind of keep building it with the help of our community and our school.
All right, boys, on to the next one.
So I went on the announcements at 8:10 on Thursday morning and had everybody stop what they were doing, and we had this clip so all the students were able to watch at 8:10 this morning, or that morning of, and it was just fun to hear them buzz about what it was, what could it be. Then all they had was that picture of the box wrapped up with a bow on it, and then at 1:30 on Thursday we went live, and we sent that link out and had our parents watch as well. So we had over 700 community members and parents part of that reveal process. And Mr. Wagner, our assistant, and Rosie, one of our educational assistants, went live and just had a great time. It also allowed the kids in the classrooms to see it live in action happening, since we couldn't have all the kids be in the library at one time. And like Steph said, today was our first day we drew Hurricane Hero slips, and one student from each grade level got to go down and receive their book, and just their faces were so excited. And every staff member will receive 2 to 4 tokens a month, and we'll really just get to distribute those for great behavior, showing kindness, but just watching them go down and be able to select a book of their choice has been really fun to see.
Any questions from the ladies or for the ladies?
Well, at our house, we experienced it firsthand in that we had some lively banter going back and forth and some sibling rivalry of who's going to guess what the big prize was or the big present. And so the suspense that you created and the learning around that has been impactful, and we've certainly felt that as parents. And thank you for the extra effort and thinking about learning differently and following through and implementing that for the kids. So, thank you.
I just think anytime you can get kids excited and engaged in reading is a huge win. And so the younger you can start them and the more engaged you can keep them, the better off they'll be long-term as far as readers. So I love the creativity and the engagement of your kids. So thank you for kind of going the extra mile and getting them engaged early on.
Thanks for coming tonight as well. Okay, moving on to conflicts of interest. No new conflicts were presented this evening. Moving on to approval of the consent agenda, items 8A through F. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second. A motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Now to 9A, supplemental claims to Sanford Healthcare System. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries with 2 abstentions from Board Member Ryder and Board Member Mickelson. 9B, claims to Avera Health. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor of 9B signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries with 1 abstention from Board Member Parker. 10, reports of the superintendent, please.
Thank you. We have 3 reports tonight. Our first report will be delivered by Dr. Boyson, and the report will consist of information on the ACT, SAT, and the NCRC assessment results report.
All right, good evening. Welcome back after a day off. It seems strange to have a Tuesday night meeting, but tonight I bring to you the report of the ACT, SAT, and NCRC for the Sioux Falls School District for the 2019 school year. It falls under our strategic plan, under student outcomes, and specifically looking at making growth with that. And one of our goals under the strategic plan is by 2020, the percentage of graduates completing the ACT scoring 24 or higher will increase by 5%. And so we like to keep a lens on that throughout the year. So we have 4 years of data, and we continue to grow that number. And so it's trending positive, and we've increased that 1.1% over the last 4 years. So high expectations, 4.9, or 3.9 for 1 more year, and then we'll make our goal. So then looking forward to the explanation of the ACT and the curriculum-based measure of college readiness that tests academic achievement in the areas English, math, reading, and science, and STEM. The ACT also offers the optional writing assessment in order to accurately measure the skills of the high school teachers teach and those necessary to be successful in entry-level college courses. The ACT performs a national curriculum study every few years, and students can tie their scores directly to the readiness standards on the online interpretive guide. Students receive scores for each subtest and a composite score, which averages the sub-scores, exclusive of the optional writing. And below or on the screen here, we show you the 5 different course areas, so English, algebra, social sciences, biology, and STEM, the ACT score area, and then the benchmark score. And so the students need to receive those benchmark scores for that proficiency on the ACT, and specifically important for college entrance. So the data that we're going to look at tonight is, again, the students graduated in 2019 from the Sioux Falls School District. while the students typically take that exam as juniors and seniors, they can take it as a sophomore. And so these scores are reported for our graduates who took that test at any time throughout their career in high school, and they can take it multiple times. So student participation, in 2019, we saw an increase in the number of students who participated in the ACT assessment prior to graduation, and that rate increased 0.4% to 67.5. The demographics we'll look at, this is last year's demographics, so 1 year glance at this, but of the profile of the students taking that exam in comparison to the 2019 cohort. So you can see that, and then, you know, our goal is always to increase the number of those participation rates within those subgroups. So just so you can see that lens, here is the data from 2015, 16, 17, and 18, and you can look at the numbers and how they have changed. For the most part, they stayed the same within those subgroups. The biggest difference, of course, is from white students. We had 78% in 2015, and we're at 70% in 2019. But the rest of them stay pretty much the same. So again, very conscious of that. How do we encourage more students to take the ACT if that's in their path for college or career? And we know nationally 52% of the 2019 graduating class took the ACT, and these numbers are down 8% from last year. So we continue to rise on that, but nationally those numbers are down. And more than 1,000 post-secondary schools have adopted test optional admissions policies over the last 5 years, and reducing admission barriers for minority and low-income students. And we know in the state of South Dakota, your Smarter Balance scores can get you in to a state school, so then not needing an ACT. So we'll break down into those set scores and look at how the district performed against the state and the national average. The first one's the English subset score, and we increased from 22 to 22.1 last year, so a slight increase in our English sub-score. The readiness benchmark is 18, and this is one of the lowest areas for the Sioux Falls students, but again, scoring higher than the state and national level in our English benchmark. The math sub-score, they're flat for 2019, while above the benchmark for college readiness of 22. Again, we remain significantly higher than the national scores, and we stayed flat, but the state dropped. So again, good news for the district on that, and then looking how can we increase that for next year. The reading subset scores for the 2019 Sioux Falls graduate increased 0.2 for 23.5, well over the state and national averages, and these scores reflected a group of students who were collectively ready for college level courses with an average score of 1 point higher than the benchmark. Again, nice increase for Sioux Falls, while the state and national saw a drop. The science subset scores increased 0.2 for 23.2. The score is slightly higher than the benchmark of 23. Again, students in Sioux Falls scored better on the average than other students in the state or nation. So nice scores, again, in all areas. And then I put this one in here. We had questions about STEM and what is the STEM benchmark? And the STEM is a measure of calculus, chemistry, biology, physics, and engineering. And the benchmark's 26, and Sioux Falls scored 31. And so that's consistent for the last 2 years, but the state average was 22. So really nice growth. So our students are ready for those engineering, biophysical, physics areas. And then we'll look at the composite. The district average composite score increased 0.2 to 23, which is the highest in the past 8 years. So that composite score, all the growth we saw in all our subsets came together on the composite. Again, growth for Sioux Falls, while the state dipped and the national dipped also. The chart below reflects the percentage of Sioux Falls District students who met the individual content benchmarks, as well as the percentage that met all 4 benchmarks, because we want them to make all those benchmarks. So it's above the state average. We had 40% of the students that took the ACT met all 4 benchmarks, while the state had 30%. As students take the ACT exam, it collects background information from students in a self-report format in order to compare the assessment results of those who took core curriculum or more, or who have claimed to take less. So that, again, that's a self-report. The core or more results in students taking 4 or more years of English and 3 or more years of math, social studies, and natural sciences. So the district average last year, we had 23% of our students who self-reported that they took the core or more. So they took all those requirements. And then we had 21.9% of the students, they reported they took less than that core. But that core was our graduation requirements, so they needed to take the core. And now that will change moving into next year. Additionally, some students elect to take the SAT assessment. 72 students from the graduating class of 2019 took the SAT assessment, and 97% of them met the ERW benchmark, which is evidence-based reading and writing benchmark, while 93% met the math benchmark and 93 met both. And that, again, student choice on that, depending on what their goals are for post-secondary. So during the 2018-19 school year, the Sioux Falls District began to offer the NCRC during, we had 1,084 students take that exam, with 71% of those students earning a silver level certificate or above. And the Sioux Falls District had 46% achieve the gold or platinum level certificate, which was 4% more than the state average. So again, a nice pathway for students that are choosing. They can use that certificate for admittance. And then we've even had employers ask for that also. So one more pathway for our students. And the district high schools last week finished giving those up, so we'll see those results coming in too. So students in Sioux Falls District continue to perform above the state and national average based on the results. A high value can be placed on the rigor and depth of the curriculum we offer in Sioux Falls. District employees will continue to use this data to explore ways to better prepare students to be college ready in lower performing areas while not losing focus on improvements and strengths in other subsets. And I ask that you acknowledge the results from the 2019 ACT, SAT, and NCR report and stand by for any questions.
I feel like I read an article recently that there was going to be a change to the ACT. And that, say, for example, I performed really well in 3 of the 4 categories, I could just return and retake that 4th one that I didn't score as well on and just do that one section and be done.
You are.
So I would be curious to see how that impacts our scores going forward, and how that will be reported out. If I just take the math section, does that, what do the numbers look like? The student took it twice, or they just took it once,
Right. If you look at the chart on the very first chart back here, you can see the frequency. Participation. So you can see the district ACT frequency. We had 961 students. So that test was taken 961 times, but so some of those kids took that test more than once.
Okay.
Okay, but that's a super score, they're calling that.
Okay.
And so students can take that, where in the past, if I wanted to raise my English score, I might just go and really focus a lot of my time on that. And then, but you still,
had to retake the entire
test, the whole
yeah.
test,
Okay.
yes.
And
So,
only some schools did accept super scores, so
Right.
it really would depend. But now
It's more widely.
the ACT is going
yeah,
to allow.
so they
any
recognize that,
individual.
yes.
Yeah, so I think that'll be a good way for students to maybe identify what their weaker areas are and to spend that time focusing on just that, and then going and repeating just that section of the test to really give them, a nice, or maybe overall higher score just by bringing up the one that was the lower one. So yeah, would be curious to see how that impacts
I will
the
too.
results.
Of those students that took the ACT, this is a great measurement in terms of our teachers and efforts that they put in day and day out when you see those kind of trajectories and those improvements. So just to pause for a minute, because it's really kind of work that goes unrecognized that they're adding to the benefit of our students, and we're able to measure it through the ACT. So
Great teachers across the
great
district.
teachers. Yeah, that's-
Thank you, Teresa, and thanks for adding the STEM information to that. My son's taken the ACT and I never knew what that meant, so thank you. Do I have a motion to approve the ACT, SAT, and CRC report?
So moved.
Motion is second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Okay, our second report tonight is a report of a program called Project Aware. Here to present on that tonight, I think we have co-presenters,
Co-presenters,
but we'll start with Deb Muhlenberg-Wilson.
good evening. Erica Palladino Hazlett and I are anxious to share information about the Project Aware grant that the district is participating in. So here's some facts about Project Aware. So the grant itself comes from the federal government in the Department of Federal Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, referred to as SAMHSA. So they're the source of the grant. In South Dakota, the Department of Education is the grant coordinator and led the writing of the grant. And they partnered with the South Dakota Department of Social Services. So as we at Whittier work with them, we're working with both those departments. So the grant to the state is a 5-year grant based on if they follow all the rules they're supposed to follow. So 4 local agencies were selected across our state to participate from a local education agency standpoint. We were excited that Whittier Middle School was one of those selected. Bridgewater Emory Middle and High School is in the grant, the Wagner K-12 school system, and then the Black Hills Special Services Co-op is the 4th subrecipient, and they're focused at the Douglas and Belfouche middle schools. Each of the 4 LEAs have a partner community health center. So for us, that's Southeastern Behavioral Health. So the state has contracted with a national evaluator out of North Carolina who collects all the performance data from all of us. That's done online, and that's what's submitted to the feds for the progress reports. We just started year 2. We're on the federal fiscal year of October 1 through the end of September. Our state was a little slow getting things up and running. Last year, we were notified in September, but the actual feet to the ground didn't start until November. So we're really just coming up on year 1 of our work together. So the federal government and the state determined 4 goals for South Dakota. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time on these because Principal Palladino Hazlett will walk you through what we're doing at Whittier right now in each of those areas. But these are the 4 goals that all the 4 LEAs in South Dakota are working on. So the basic framework is a tiered model that we're implementing and at this point developing. So you can see that home and community awareness is the foundational part of the grant, working toward those goals of destigmatizing mental health issues, building self-healing and trauma-informed practices, and creating community partnerships. And I would say we've been working really hard on those community partnerships at this point, and we appreciate the work of Southeastern behavioral health in this adventure that we're on. Tier 1 are things we're going to do universally at Whittier Middle School. And Erica will talk in detail about some of those changes. In Tier 2, we'll actually start to work with individual students who may have certain needs that relate to this grant. And then Tier 3 would provide wraparound services where students are actually connected to community resources and receive those mental health services at no cost to them. So with that, Erica will tell you about feet on the ground at Whittier Middle School.
Okay, I'm going to give you just a little blurb on each one of the points that we have up there, and then you guys can ask questions or I can clarify. The building systemic procedures for referral and support to community resources. This isn't an easy thing when you work with multiple entities inside of your school, so we continue to find ways to streamline this. Today, we work with our counselors at the school, our teachers at the school, who refer to what we'll call the CPAM, which is the Community Project Aware Manager, who also resides at Whittier. She gets this information to our Systems of Care Coordinator, who sets up intake meetings. The implemented online screening tool that we access is called SABRS, and that assessment is given with parent consent. It's a tool that allows us to collect information for students who might be at risk behaviorally and emotionally. Once this is completed, we're able to refer to services or offer services within our building. This year we've referred, or 63 students have been screened in total. 35 have been referred to Tier 2 services, and that Tier 2 service happens inside of our building. It could be a success coordinator, a school counselor that you have to have access to, a check-in and check-out program, tracking sheets, success plans, any of those would be on that Tier 2 level. 25 have been referred to the Tier 3, which is the systems of care or the social emotional disturbance area. We develop small group intervention sessions to support youth at school. This, we really try to identify the right population with that SABRS, and we really want to intervene more intensely on the Tier 2 side. So our goal here is to create groups that would focus on social skills, rule following, how to respond in difficult situations, how to make a friend, etc. We took a leadership team to the National Positive Behavior Support Training. That group continues to meet 2 times per month to drive the implementation building-wide. We created a school website where all the documents and procedures are housed. A tier of interventions for behavior was created at Whittier. Staff were taken through that process so everybody was aware of how that worked. These continue to become fine-tuned as the PBS or the PBIS teams meet 2 times a month. And I can give you examples of that later if you want me to. Implementation of an online system to utilize tracking the low-level behaviors. This is called SWIS, and it's really a streamlined referral process. So if you were at the middle schools previous to this, we had something that you call a clipboard system, and that really looked like a Google Doc, and there were multiple Google Docs, there were multiple ways to access this, and even with there being multiple documents and ways to access, not everybody could always access it. So what SWIS does, it allows our teachers to communicate and allows consistencies when students are cross-teamed during encore classes. Teachers can see student referrals at any time, and then we can discuss with them to decrease behaviors and develop stronger relationships. Working in the Whittier neighborhood to increase awareness of youth and mental health. Our systems of care creates relationships during the day. She goes out to and reaches out to multiple providers in the area. This allows us to refer parents successfully to resources in the community. NAMI, which is the National Alliance of Mental Illness, has presented to our full staff. They've presented to parents. They will, by January, have completed presentations to our 6th grade class. In January, they will also present to our staff on some self-care pieces, and they were at our parent-teacher conferences as well. There we go. I already talked about our referral piece. Our community project aware manager has been trained as a youth mental health first aid trainer. She's organizing classes in cohesion with VOA as they have pieces of this grant as well. We'll be able to offer a class for certificate to staff, which also covers the teacher's required suicide prevention class for recertification, but anybody can take that class as well. We developed a community advisory board at Whittier to seek input from local experts and Whittier parents. That team meets 2 times a year. The first meeting has already taken place. At that meeting, information was shared and a discussion about how to sustain services and people after the grant ends was had. And then we have a second step curriculum, which we have offered in Pro Times to support all students. And right now, this is a social emotional curriculum that we use. It has 26 lessons total. Pro Times are encouraged to do that 1 time a week over the course of this year.
So in your report, I explained how much money the district received in year 1 and in year 2. The majority of the funds we receive directly go to pay for the person that she refers to as the CPAM. That's a licensed mental health provider. She works 12 months a year at Whittier. This summer, she worked a lot on those procedures and preparing trainings for staff and students. That Southeastern then gets a subrecipient award that pays for a person that's called the SOC, the Systems of Care mental health provider, and she's also at Whittier all the time. And she's really working out in the community and supporting kids' referrals, those kinds of things. So those are the dollars we've received each year. We'll renegotiate that year based on what the assignments and tasks for the year are. This Thursday, Erica and I and the CPAM will be in Chamberlain at a meeting of all of the statewide providers together. That will be the first time we've really all been face-to-face. Up till now, we've done a lot of electronic meetings. So I think we're anxious to be in the same room and have dialogue on what we're doing and where this grant is going. So as we move forward, the grant really is about bringing partnerships in the Whittier community together and other supports in our Sioux Falls community to build that system of care around youth at Whittier and supporting their social and mental health needs. So that's what we're doing. We would stand by for questions and ask you to acknowledge the informational report.
I want to thank Whittier and you, Deb, for taking this on. Obviously, it's an additional work for you to do this, but it's such an important issue in our district, in our community. And I was excited to learn when Whittier was chosen as one of the locations in South Dakota, because it's kind of awesome that we get this opportunity to do this, and hopefully what we learn at Whittier we can then use throughout our district and to help in this issue.
The state has alluded to, when we get our feet on the ground, expanding in the districts that we're at, but they haven't really given us, it's kind of like a teaser right now for me. They haven't really laid out the how and the when of that. But I could say in a year, we've learned a lot at Whittier. We've also gathered partners that we haven't traditionally used, which is a great learning experience for us.
Well, I think it's such a great opportunity to learn all of this and gather all those resources so that, you know, in years 3, 4, 5, we can really take all that information and as Cynthia said, expand it to other areas in our community, because we know it's so needed in all of our schools.
I'm curious how receptive parents and students have been to the interventions, the testing or the assessment, screening, things like that. Have you gotten feedback from them, good, bad, or indifferent?
Yeah, we had a discussion about that today as well with the state. You know, there's a stigma of mental illness, which is one of the reasons why the grant becomes important. And so we do run into some of that with parents when we're trying to get consent to test their sons or daughters. But honestly, many of the students that we've referred, their parents give us that information back immediately, and we're able to refer them on or get them into the tier 2 or tier 3 services.
I appreciate it a lot that it's helping students and it's helping communities, but it's also really training and giving teachers and staff members the tools that they can use, obviously to help their students, but I think it's so important that we also have those tools available for staff to help themselves. And so you were talking about self-care, and I think that unfortunately is something that many people are not good at. We don't take the time to do that. And so by talking about it at work and by helping people to, look for signs of other people, hopefully we're also encouraging them to look for signs for themselves too, and what do they need to do to take care of themselves so that they can be their best self for their students as well. And I know at our National School Board Convention, we had talked or heard about the mental health first aid certificate. So I was really glad to see and hear that, because I think that's an important step in helping staff members. And I know there are other schools that actually train students to be those first aid people. So it's more of a peer relationship. And so I hope that what we can do is grow what we have into recruiting more people into that role, whether it's staff members or whether it's students, and they can be peer-to-peer and be able to identify those students who have needs as well. So very exciting start, and I appreciate all the information that you shared.
We are lucky. Our CPM is trained in the mental health first aid, and Jamie and Teresa and I have been talking about how to share that knowledge she has gained with people across the district. That's not unique there. So we've talked about some different ways to offer that, be it through Red Apple or something else, so that other staff can participate in that.
That'd be great.
Acquisition of knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Seeing no other questions or comments, do you have a motion to approve the Project Aware report?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Okay, our final report of the evening is the fiscal year 21 budget timeline and guidelines. Here to present that is Tariq.
Thank you, Dr. Maher. 27 days from now, on December 9th, RSM will be in here and they'll present the audit, which will close out our FY19 budget year. And tonight we'll kick off our FY21 budget year officially anyway. So what you have in front of you are the budget guidelines and timelines for the FY21 budget process. We discussed this fairly in depth back in at the retreat in July, what we've put together here kind of represents what we discussed that day. What we've got is, as usual, we have 19 committees being appointed, finalized right now. They will apprise about 150 individuals that will be comprised of that. They contain, they're made up of community members, teachers, building administrators, central administrators, and other staff, depending on the committee. What we'll be asking them to do, as we have for the past several years, is prepare 4 budgets. One that's a 90% budget or a 10% reduction, and then to kind of put limits on these so they're kind of comparable. We put a lower range and an upper range because some of our budgets are $15 or $20 million, and then some of them are $100,000. So we have those ranges of $15,000 to $100 minimum or $100,000 maximum. Then we have a 95% budget or $6,000, whichever is greater, with a maximum reduction of $40,000. Then we have 98% budget or $4,000, whichever is greater, with a maximum reduction of $20,000. And then, like we did last year, because as you know, and as we talked about, we as we build our 5-year spending plan, we have an efficiency factor built in there. And it's about, we need to get about out of these type of budgets, about a 1% cut to be able to achieve that. So we're gonna ask each group to at least identify 1%. And this mostly applies to the larger budgets because we have that $100,000 max on the 90%. But if you have a $20 million budget, 1% of that, of course, is 200,000. So 100,000 wouldn't get you there. So everybody's gonna pick the level here that's closest to 1%. Everybody's gonna prepare a 1% budget, just so we can have those available to us as we try to achieve those efficiencies. That's kind of the details of the guidelines. There's several others in your packet, but you can look at those, and they're very similar to what they were last year. Then we'll look at the timeline. After we get approved tonight, we're gonna prepare our documents, and on December 4th, we're gonna meet with the directors and coordinators who actually do the work on the budgets. They have a committee of about, around 8 to 10 folks, but they actually prepare the budgets, put it in the systems, and go through all these guidelines that we've done tonight and give them some helpful hints on how to prepare those. And then they'll start meeting with their committee. Some of them are go-getters and start meeting in December. Most groups meet in January and early February. And then those are due into the finance office at the end of February. So we can pull all those items together, and then we bring that on the 19th, the K through 12 Budget Review Committee, which is made up of about 22 individuals, administrators, building again, teachers from every level, special ed teacher is on there. And then the 2 board members that are on this year are Board President Mickelson and Board Member Tolke are on that as well. It says some of the central office folks are on there as well. So we'll go through there and prepare a recommendation, and then kind of the change from last year that we talked about in July is on the 25th of March. We'll meet, that's a Wednesday, we'll meet and go through it like we usually do at that work session. Usually that's the first Wednesday in April, but we're gonna go a week earlier, go through it, let you guys kind of digest that and ask some questions and whatnot. And then 2 weeks later, the original document we sent out had it 1 week later, but it's 2 weeks later on the 8th, we'll go through and answer your questions and kind of try to finalize all that up. And then we will make any changes that decide to be made, and we'll bring those to the public hearing that next Monday on the 13th. And that's ahead of that 15th deadline that we need. So we'll have a tentative approval. And so Becky and the HR department, they can do their hiring and whatnot and get going on that. And so we'll have the tentative approval on the 13th. And then of course, on the annual meeting next July 13th in 2020, we'll have the official approval of the budget. So it asks that you approve the budget guidelines, timelines, and FY21 budget process as presented. Thank you.
Just one thought on the timeline. I'm wondering, since we're having the 2 work sessions, and those are usually in the day, if we should maybe move one later for if staff who would like to attend, or parents, just a thought. We haven't set time.
Yeah,
I know that's, but just
we haven't set
something,
the time yet.
but
So that's
something we
good.
might want to think about, since we're having 2 to allow for more opportunity for people to attend. So. Any other questions? Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve the budget timeline and guidelines for 2021?
Second.
Motion second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, Todd.
Thanks.
Moving on to policy. Kate or Carly?
I'll take it. So we've got 4 policies up for review, revision. We reviewed the policies with the administration, and given the minimal revisions to the policies, second readings we felt weren't necessary. So I'll just go through them. We have ECF, energy conservation, no changes. EEAG, student transportation and private vehicles. We eliminated the annual driving records check to match the district's criminal records check it conducts for all employees. EEBA, school-owned vehicles, same, eliminate the annual driving records check to match the district's criminal records check conducts for all employees. And EEBC, business and personal transportation insurance, no changes. So because of the minimal changes, I recommend that we approve the review revision of the 4 policies.
Any questions, discussion? Do I have a motion?
I already mentioned. I made
Oh, you
a
did,
motion.
I'm sorry, I'm second.
Second.
I was seeing, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We're adjourned. Sorry about that. I was jumping ahead. To get over my lawyerness on the policy. It was wonderful. I'm still catching up. So it was really wonderful.
Yeah.